Hello, everybody. Hello. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Let me close this down. Open up the live chat. How is everybody doing? Hello. Hello. How's the noise? I want to make sure my microphone is working before we get started today. And just letting you know, this camera is a little glitchy for the sewing machine today. I don't know why. Hopefully it lasts during the live stream. So great to see everybody today. Today we're making a free mug rug pattern, so I want you to jump down to the description box if you haven't gotten it already. We're going to be making this autumn mug rug. Simple little four patch. And then we're going to be doing some raw edge applique with the leaves today. Hello, everybody. Ah, Joan, you're so sweet. Thank you. I'm so glad to see everybody. The Wood Burning Warrior just got your sewing machine last month and you're clueless. Oh, we would love to help you learn your sewing machine. Wow, what kind of sewing machine did you get? You're from Yorktown. I'm in Yorktown. Whoa, it's a small world. It's a small world. Well, okay, so technically I'm in York County, but I have a Williamsburg address. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. Thank you so much, Dari, for helping moderate today and keeping an eye on the chat. Whoa, you found a Kenmore 385 for $10 and it works beautifully. That was a score. That was a bargain. Hello, everybody. Okay, so this week we're going to be making this free mug rug pattern. And then next week, we're making a quilt as you go casserole trivet. It's casserole size and it doubles as a hot pad. So make sure to stay tuned to next Friday. And then the Friday after that, y'all, we're going to be starting a table runner. And it is gorgeous. I can't wait for you to see it, but I'm not going to show it yet. I can't wait. Actually, both of those projects are really, really awesome. So I'm excited for the next couple weeks. And then, y'all, we're going to be taking a break from lives because we will be going to Vermont to see Harlan's parents. And the day that we're leaving, we're actually going to miss 3 Fridays. Actually, we'll be home the 3rd Friday. There's no way I could put together a live that day. So I am going to pre-record some videos for the next 3 weeks after that. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. You tried a table runner last week and it didn't turn out. Well, I certainly hope that you don't quit. Usually our first projects, we get really frustrated with them, but the more that we hang in there and we practice, the better results we get. So don't give up. Just try again. Okay, I'm going to switch my screen over. I'm going to show you this pattern real quick. Here is our mug rug. Y'all, this is a good little size mug rug. Let me show you my glass on it. See? So the little leaves are here. You could put a couple carrot sticks, crackers, cookies, whatever you wanted on it. There's a little area for your snacks and your cup. I think it's adorable. Or you could just hang this up at your desk or sit it on your table. Now it's all wet from my water. But yeah, cute little mug rug project. This is a pattern. If you got this before yesterday, chances are we need to make a correction. Y'all, we are camping in Williamsburg. So I came home yesterday and made this mug rug, and I realized that the measurements were a little off. I'm trying to find the page. Here we go. So if you're sewing with me live today, all you have to do is trim off 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to cut new pieces. But yeah, if you got this pattern yesterday or today or whenever you watch this from here on out, the measurements are right. Thank you, Dari. Yes, we're going to be going up to Vermont and hopefully helping out for a couple weeks, and we're looking forward to it. Hello everybody. So today I'm working with some fall colored fabrics. Isn't that pretty? And we're doing raw edge applique. I've already pre-cut all of my pieces to kind of speed things up in today's video. And then the pattern does walk you through everything. So if you don't like long videos or you just want to get to the point, print off the pattern. It walks you through everything, right? But we're going to spend the afternoon and make this project together. Hopefully I'll slow down a little bit and just enjoy spending time with everybody. It's so great to see y'all. Y'all, today we're going to be starting off with some very basic, simple patchwork. Very basic and simple. We have 4 2.5 by 2.5 inch pieces that we're going to piece together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? We're going to flip the pretty sides over. I'm going to set my machine up, let's see, to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the first thing we're going to do is sew this together. So let's move over to the sewing machine. I removed the filter. See that little glitch? I don't know why it's doing that. Hopefully this camera doesn't go out on me today. Come on. I removed the filter so you might hear my sewing machine. Hopefully it's not too loud. We're just sewing a seam, 1/4 inch for both of these units. Oh, that camera is glitchy. Okie doke. When I say simple, look, we're just going to be pressing this over to the dark side. Both of these little pieces. I have to warm up my iron for a second. She's been sleeping. Yeah, it's so great to see y'all. Trinita, I saw your embroidery foot that came in the mail yesterday. I saw that. That's exciting. I'm just pressing these seams right to the dark side. And this will be all of the patchwork for today. That's it. That is it. This MugRug is really super duper, kind of beginner friendly, right? Very easy sewing. And even with the applique, if you don't want to sew your leaves down, you could use the Heat and Bond in the red package, the Ultra Hold, and that would be it. You just fuse them in place and you're done, right? All right, so we're going to flip these 2 pieces over. We're going to join those, and because we've pressed those seams to the dark side, they should nest right in the middle and catch right there. And we're going to sew this seam with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to bring over this piece and we're going to add that too. No, we're not. Hold on a second. We're going to sew this piece first. I think I'm just going to have to replace this webcam at the sewing machine. I have a backup. All right, so let's go ahead and press this. See how pretty those points meet in the middle? Now you could press that seam to the side, or if you want it to be a little bit flatter, you could cut the little stitches right in the middle of this seam. The stitches from this first seam, you could cut them or pull them out with a seam ripper. I kind of want to get you used to doing this because this is going to come in handy when we do that table runner in 2 weeks. I just snipped those two seam. There was like 2 or 3 little stitches on both sides. I just snipped them, and we're going to open up this seam and press this seam open. That's going to give us a flatter 4 patch. And even though it's a little more time consuming than just flipping that seam over and pressing it, which I usually do, you do get a little bit of a flatter intersection right in the middle where those seams meet. And for the patchwork we're going to do for that table runner, you're going to get a lot flatter results for that patchwork. So we're going to get in the habit of doing that before we even start that project. Okie doke. So there is my nice flat 4 patch. Now you'll see the very first pattern that I released, I had called for this base fabric to be 8.5 by 4 3/4, but that is a 1/4 inch too wide. See that? So we're going to trim off a 1/4 inch of that. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Where's my ruler? Here we go. We're going to just trim this. It should be 4.5 inches tall, right? 8.5 long and 4.5 inches tall. So I'm just going to trim a 1/4 inch right off of this. And if you have that first pattern, you can go back and re-download it. I did fix that. All right, so these 2 pieces should be the same size this way. And we're going to flip this 4 patch over. Just making sure my fabrics are going the right way. And we're going to sew this seam with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to do that without even switching over because it's just going to take a second. I'm going to match up those raw edges. Nice and straight. And we're going to come back. What does my shirt say? I turn thread and fabric into quilts. What's your superpower? Now we could open this seam up and press that open too. Let's go ahead and do that. Or I'm going to press this seam over towards the 4 patch. Mary said, I love your mug rugs. I hope that you put them all together when this series is finished. Mary, you can find all of my mug rug videos all in one playlist. I've grouped them all together so that you could go through them pretty easily. There we go. We're going to let that cool off for a second. And then you're going to trace your little leaf patterns, which would be on page 2. I did 2. The tips go in different directions, right? You could do them all the same, or you could do 2 of one and 1 of the other. It's totally up to you. I'm not tracing this little stem and cutting that out of fabric. You could, but I'm going to do a little satin stitch for that part. So I just traced the leaf pattern, and I used Heat and Bond Light. So I will have to stitch my little leaves down. Let's scoot this over some. There you go. So we're going to take the paper off the back of these. It's got the shiny stuff, that's the adhesive, and we're going to place these leaves onto the base portion of our mug rug. Can we twirl the 4-patch seam? Or is it flatter to open the second seam as you did in this video? Let's take a look at this. See how it sort of makes, I'm not really good at twirling, okay? But when I cut the seams, it was able to separate these pieces. See that? And so I'm not that great at twirling my seams, but that is what my seam looks like, and it does lay a lot flatter right in that intersection. All right, so we're going to place our leaves down and fuse them. Just keep in mind, we're going to have a binding that comes over about 1/4 inch on all 3 sides of this base fabric. So when we're placing it, we want to make sure we don't go right to the edge, because that binding is going to take up a little portion. It might even be helpful to bring in a ruler to help you kind of see where your binding is going to be. Same for the top and the bottom. And then you can just place your little leaves. I like to twirl my leaves. You could make them all straight like that if you wanted to. But I like to make them so that it kind of looks like they're blowing in the wind. And also remember, we're going to have some stems come down. So I will raise these leaves up just a little bit to accommodate for the length of those stems, right? They're going to come down a little bit into this empty space. And let's just fuse those right in place. Hazel, yep, you can use freezer paper. I gave you 2 of the leaf shapes, so you could trace from the right side of the pattern for this. And that just takes a second. Now at this point, y'all, once you get your leaves fused into place, you have a couple options, right? You could go ahead and take this to the sewing machine and stitch down your leaves now before we create the layers of our mug rug. Now, one of the things I like to do, because for this mug rug project, I'm going to keep the quilting very simple and not do a lot. I mean, you could quilt the whole thing if you wanted to. A small little meandering stitch would look awesome with this mug rug. So you could wait, right? But you could, at this point, go in and stitch down your leaves. You could use all kinds of stitches, like a zigzag stitch, a satin stitch, a blanket stitch. We do have lots of little points and curves on these leaves. See that? So I'm going to actually use a free motion stitch. And I'm going to wait until I've created the layers of my mug rug. And I'm going to do my free motion stitch and stitch down my leaves with the layers. And that's going to serve 2 purposes, right? It's going to save me a little bit of time in my quilting, because as I'm stitching down this leaf, I'm also quilting this mug rug. So I'm going to hold off on that for a second, but I do want to do my little satin stitch, which again, you could wait until the end, but I want to just show you. I don't know if you can see the little quilting line. It's a thin quilting line of the leaf, but you don't see the satin stitch from the stem part, right? That's because I did the satin stitch at this point. Again, different options. It all depends on what you like, right? I'm going to go ahead and do my satin stitch now, though. I have some brown thread in both the top and the bobbin. And I'm going to bring over 2 layers of sort of a medium weight tearaway stabilizer. using a satin stitch. We'll just reuse this piece. Here's 2 layers. This is from where I did the satin stitch on my first mug rug. I'm just going to lay this right underneath, and I'm going to do the satin stitch, and you could get creative and do them short, you could do them long, you could do them all 3 different sizes. You could even, if you wanted to, trace the stems that you see here on the pattern, if that helps you to give you a guide. All right, so we're going to bring this over to the sewing machine. I have my 2 layers of tearaway and then my top. Let's raise this needle. I'm going to choose a satin stitch on my machine. I'm using a Juki HZL F600. The satin stitch for my machine is number 5. And I'm going to lower the stitch length to 0.3. And I'm going to keep the stitch width at the default 2.6. Okay? And yep, I'm just going to start right at the base of my leaf, just a little bit into the leaf fabric. And I'm just going to do a little satin stitch. That tearaway stabilizer is going to help keep that fabric from puckering up too much. And just keep in mind, we will have the binding that comes over this bottom edge too. And I'm just going to jump from one leaf to the next. And we'll cut these jump stitches in just a minute. All right, so there are my 3 stems. We're going to cut these little jump stitches. We have a couple on the front. And then we have a couple on the back. I like to just go ahead and trim those. And then we can remove this tearaway. I reuse my scraps of tearaway. So yeah, I'll save that. And that will go back in the package for another project. And there are the stems of my mug rug. Isn't that cute? Now, if you are extremely new and the thought of sewing down these leaves would be something that you would say, I'm going to pass on this mug rug because I'm not quite there yet. When I talk about stitching down this applique, you could, instead of using like a Heat and Bond light like I did, use the Heat and Bond in the red package, because at this point you'd be done and you're going to create the layers of your mug rug and you're done, right? Why not use the scissors to avoid jump stitches? You certainly could, Barb. You couldn't. For me, this is just faster to move, jump, 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 and then trim. You could certainly use the cutter on your machine or trim them as you go. All right. So let's see. We're going to bring in the other pieces of this mug rug. I have my backing fabric. The pattern does call for an extra inch to be used all the way around. If you want to fold this up and use this as your binding, you could certainly do that, and that would be so fast and a simple way to finish this, right? I usually do that for my videos. Today we're going to change it up, and I made a little small binding. If you want to do a separate binding, you need about 36 inches of binding. So I cut my binding at 2 inches wide, and I only needed one strip of 43-inch fabric, and actually this wasn't even 43 inches. It was right at 36 inches long. I cut a 2-inch strip and I folded it in half and I've pressed it. So we're going to bind this little mug rug today. So the extra fabric we will be cutting away. I'm going to go ahead and layer my project. I have my backing fabric with the pretty side facing down. And I have my batting. Y'all, this is a warm and natural cotton batting. It is super thin. I'm going to put that right in the middle. And you know me, I'm a glue baster. I'm going to bring in a glue stick. This is an Elmer's washable school glue stick. I'm just going to put some of this glue stick on this back fabric, smooth it down, and a little bit on that side, and smooth it down. And then I'm going to put a little bit on this batting. Just like that. And we're going to bring in the top of our mug rug. I got strings everywhere. We're just going to center that right there. And I'm going to press this just to dry that glue. So we're not bringing any wet glue over to the sewing machine. Debbie, it's possible. She said her Heat and Bond in the red package fell off after a couple days. It is possible. You know, all of these fusible products, there is a such thing as not pressing long enough or pressing for too long or having the temperature on your iron too hot. What happens if it's too hot or you've pressed too long, that adhesive soaks right into your fabric and then your fabric doesn't stick anymore. I wonder if that was the case. I'm just pressing from the back side. We're going to dry that glue from this direction as well. Again, I'm going to be trimming this off, right? But you could absolutely fold it up over and make the binding for your mug rug. That would be cute, right? I'm going to trim mine off, but I'm going to wait because I'm going to go ahead and quilt this project and then trim off the extra backing. All right, so to quilt this mug rug, I'm going to do it really simple. I'm going to do a stitch in the ditch with my 4-patch, and then I'm going to switch over to a free motion foot while we're still there, and I'm just going to do a free motion stitch real quick on each one of these leaves. So hopefully my sewing machine camera will, it'll stay working. I'm going to switch back to a straight stitch, and my stitch length, I'm going to use a 2.6 for the length. So there's our first seam. I'm going to sew right down this middle. I like to start on the inside, and so I will do a couple little back stitches just to lock that quilting in place. And then we're going to sew right down the middle there. And that is my stitch in the ditch quilting. I'm going to trim this little thread right there. So now let's switch on over to the free motion foot. That's going to take me a second just to swap these feet out. Put that foot on. I like just to take this thread and just feed it right through that foot. Just like that. I'm going to lower my feed dogs. And I'm going to pick a straight stitch, and I'm lowering the length on my straight stitch to a 0. Now we're all set up to do the free motion stitch. I'm going to bring that bobbin up to the top. Grab that bobbin thread, lower my needle, and we're ready to start. Now you could use a thread that sort of contrasts against your leaf fabric, or you could use a thread that blends in and you don't hardly even see it. So that's totally up to you. Let's just trim these little thread tails right there. You can see that brown thread. I'm close to the edge, but not on the very, very edge. And we're going to jump from leaf to leaf. I do not know why my fabric bundled up like that when we pressed it. That's weird. And our third leaf. Each time I start and stop, I just take a couple little stitches, little tiny stitches, just to lock that quilting. That is probably the fastest way to stitch down your applique, is just by doing a free motion stitch just like that. That does mean that when you, if you were to wash this project, the raw edges of your leaves might fray a little bit. I do think the heat and bond on the back side of that leaf fabric will prevent some fraying, but not all. So it's possible that you could get some fraying there. Now we're going to switch back to my regular presser foot, because we are going to do the binding together for this mug rug. Why not? It's Friday. Just putting on the standard pressing foot. Raising my feed dogs. And now we can move back over here for just a minute. Again, you have a couple different options, right? Flip this over. That is a super duper fast way to bind your mug rug. I'm going to trim that off. Usually I do finish my mug rugs off pretty fast using the back fabric in the videos, but today I'm feeling a little adventurous. We're going to move this over just a little bit, and I'm going to trim off the extra backing fabric. Ooh, Dari's been practicing her free motion stitching. I'm just going to trim everything right away, right to the edge of my mug rug. This is also a perfect time to square up your mug rug if your quilting caused it to go a little off, right? This is the perfect time to square everything up. And there we go. We're done cutting today. I can put that up. I have these little itty bitty pieces of fabric. Ooh, those are pretty. I'm going to hold on to those. And here's our mug rug. Again, I have 36 inches of binding here. I started off with 2-inch strip for my binding, and it's pressed already, right? Pressed right down the middle. Sorry, I was just reading everyone's comments about free motion stitching. Yeah, isn't that fantastic? I love the yellows and the oranges. Oh, that's so pretty. So for my smaller projects, I do have these little labels that I made, and I like to put them on my mug rugs and things that I create. So I'm going to go ahead and just figure out where I want that to be. And I like to sort of just add a little bit of glue there so that it stays put. This one, let's put on the side. Like that. Just like that. I'm going to hold that in place for a second. It is a polyester ribbon, so I don't want to use any heat to dry that, so we're just going to hold that for a second. I'm actually going to sew my binding to the front first. When I do that, it'll do like a little stay stitch for my label on the back. Can I show the salvage? I don't have any salvage. This wasn't quite a full strip of fabric. It was from my scraps, and there's no salvage edge on this. I can tell you, though, that this fabric did come from Joann Fabrics. So if you go into Joann's and you know how they have, what is it, the calico or the showcase, one of those, the bigger section of quilters cotton fabrics, and they've divided it up in colors. If you go in the brown section, that's where you'll find this fabric. All right. I think we can sew with that now. I will just put a little baby binding clip there just to make sure it doesn't move, though. Little baby binding clip. Ooh. just don't want that to move while I'm moving everything around. There we go. All right, we're going to start binding this. Do you make your own labels or do you? I make them. Yes, I make them. Are you able to walk in your boot? Oh, yeah, Miss Debbie. How is your foot healing up? All right. I'm going to start binding my mug rug. Y'all, we're all different. You might want to start on the side. You might want to start on the top. I'm going to start in this area. And I'm going to be matching up the raw edge of my binding to the raw edge of my mug rug. But here's the thing. I want to start sewing here, and we're going to leave a little thread tail, right? A little thread tail loose. And we'll actually start sewing right down here. And I'm going to use like a scant 1/4 inch because this is a little bit of a thinner binding. Just going to kind of do a scant 1/4 inch, and we're going to start sewing this binding to the front. Robin, I do. I show how I make my labels. They're with sublimation, and you can see that video on my channel. Shameless little plug, you can also order them in my Etsy shop. We're going to switch this over. And we're going to start binding this mug rug. Remember, we're going to leave this little tail just flopping every which way for a minute. And I will do just a little back stitch to lock this binding in place once we get started. And I'm going to go through this part pretty quickly, just so we can go through all of the binding and not take forever. We're going to flip this over, miter this corner. Hold that in place and swing everything right around. These small little projects, the binding goes by pretty quick on them. I stop about 1/4 of a way before I get to the edge, and then fold this back, and then fold it the other direction. That's going to give us pretty little mitered corners. And we're just going to make sure that this label is going to stay put. Here's the beginning. We're just going to move that right on out of the way. Make sure you don't sew that right in there. This is our last corner. We're going to flip it so that it makes an L for Lisa. And then we're going to make a mirror imaged L and flip it back the other way. And this time, when I start sewing, I'm only going to come down just a little bit because I need a little bit of extra room right here to connect these two endings, right? So I'm only going to secure this corner in place. So now I have a little flippy tail on this side and a flippy tail on this side. We're going to come to the cutting mat. I'm going to show you one of the ways that I like to join these little small projects. You could do this on your big quilts too. Oh, it's so great to see y'all. I'm going to have to come back through and read all of the comments. I'm going to move this over so y'all can see really good. And let me grab a pen so you'll be able to see this too. All right, so we have a loose end on the right side. We have a loose end on the left side. Both of these have a raw edge, right? From where we cut our strip of fabric. I'm going to fold over the left side just a little bit, and I'm going to press that. Press, press, press. Then, let's get that to stay down for a second. I'm going to pin it right in place so that it stays put so I can show you all this. All right, so there's the folded edge. With this other tail, I'm going to bring it down and we're going to fold it so that the two folds are touching. Just touching, not overlapping, just touching. See that? And we're going to press that side. Yay, me too, Tammy. I'm glad you were able to catch it live. All right. Now, y'all, there's several different ways that you can finish off your binding. I have videos on simple ways of just tucking this into the opening, right? And simple, fast. It is a little bulky. I also have a video showing how to do a mitered join at your ends. And so that video is on my channel. And this is just one more way that you can do it. We will be sewing a straight seam right there. So now that you have your fold, you can open up your binding. And I'm going to draw a line. You normally wouldn't have to draw a line because you see this pressed crease right there. But for video purposes, using a regular pen, which I probably wouldn't do either, I'm going to just draw that line so that you can see it a little bit better. In real life, like, you'll be able to see that crease. I'm going to do that for this other side too. So we're just going to open up this binding. And I'm going to draw a line so maybe you can see that. We're not cutting anything yet. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold this over. Let me grab a couple more binding clips. We're going to fold this MugRug over so that we can work with these loose ends. So let's just fold her right on over and just clip her so that she doesn't keep wanting to pop over, right? We're going to bring this to the sewing machine. Actually, it might have been helpful to draw the line on this side. There you go. There's the pressed line. And there's the pressed line. Maybe you can see that easier. We're going to match up these two pressed lines and we're going to sew this just a straight stitch from one edge to the other. We're going to match up those two lines, or that pressed crease, and we're going to sew that. And that's going to join our two endings of binding. Now she's a little awkward because she has a little baby tail on this side. I probably could have positioned this a lot in a better place to start and stop my binding. See those lines? We're just going to match them up. Just like that. I'm going to start taking a couple stitches to hold that in place, and then let's move this over and make sure that everything is lined up all the way to the other side. All the way to the other side, Lisa. There we go. I promise you, I did not struggle this much yesterday doing the binding on the other one. But because we're live, usually I struggle a little bit more. Alright, so there is our straight stitch right on that pressed line. We're just going to give this a test before we trim anything. We're going to open that mug rug back open. And your binding should just lay nice and flat, right? So let's go trim this extra off. We can open that up. I'm just going to trim this and leave about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to give that a press so that it lays flat with that new seam in there. And now we're going to pick back up where I know you can't see that because I used a brown thread. We stopped right here with our sewing, the binding on, and this is where we started. We're just going to connect these 2 points. And that binding should just fit right in there nicely. See, that goes by pretty quick. I'm going to trim all these little threads in my corners so they don't stick out of my binding when I flip this binding to the back side. When I use my thread cutters, it actually ties a little knot and I get these 2 little threads. One reason why I jump around from place to place when I'm doing certain things, because I usually have to come back and trim those little threads off anyway. Alright, so we're going to flip this binding over to the back side, push out our little corners. See my labels? Got the little stay stitch there. Oh, there's another little thread. And now I like just to come and bring my iron. I'm going to be really careful not to hit my label so it doesn't melt it. I like to press my binding from the back side, kind kind of help it lay down a little bit flatter. Sort of helps it behave a little bit better, right? Just like that. And y'all know I'm a glue baster, so I'm going to bring in some wet glue and we're going to glue this binding in place. You could clip it, right? You could use a whole bunch of little binding clips and keep it in place like that. It only takes a minute or two just to throw some dots of glue in there and dry that glue. So that's what I'm going to do. This bottle is almost empty. It's going to take a second. This is Elmer's Glue Wall. You could use the school glue as well. You can see I'm just putting a couple dots. Let's work from this side. There we go. Just pulling that binding right over. And we're drying that glue with our iron. So now we won't have to pin or binding clip that binding at all. See how it stays put? Y'all, I am so excited. I cannot wait to do this trivet with y'all next week. It is so, so cute. Maybe it's the fabrics that I used is why I think it's so cute. I don't know, but it is just so cute. We're going to be doing that next Friday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. That will be a free pattern, so keep an eye on my channel for the thumbnail for next Friday's video. And you can download that pattern coming up. Just a couple dots of glue. I'll tell you, if you are extremely new to quilting and adding binding to your quilts, you might want to check out using glue. I think it is so much easier glue basting your binding. My results are usually a lot better when I do. All right, this side we're going to be extra careful because we have our little label there. And we don't want to melt that. I have to be really careful. This iron is kind of big to do that. All right, y'all, we have one more thing to finish up today's mug rug. We're going to bring this back to the sewing machine. And I'll be sewing from the front, right in the ditch of our binding. See how pretty that little binding is? That's a 2-inch binding. Sewn to the front with a scant 1/4 inch. And it does come over my stitch line, so when I stitch in the ditch from the front, it's going to catch it on the back. All right, we're going to bring it back to the sewing machine one last time. I'm going to move this needle over so that it just does come right in that ditch of the binding. And we're off. Sometimes I sew up on my binding, like right there. That's okay. That's one of the biggest reasons why I like to pick a thread that kind of coordinates with my binding in case I accidentally sew up over top of it. It doesn't stick out so much. And we're coming back to where we started, right there. I did not do a back stitch when we started. I don't think I did. Nope. So I'm going to pass where we started just a little bit, and I'll do a couple back stitches. That just helps me get a prettier look on the back side. If I use my thread cutters, it creates a little nest of something going on back there. So I'm going to pull this away from the machine. Oh, no, I accidentally hit the button. All right, well, now I can show you what it does. It creates a little bit of a thicker thread line there. And sometimes it really just mangles it up. That's not that bad, especially since I used a thread that really blends in. But there we go. We're all done. We're all done. There we go. That is our mug rug. Let's take a look up close if we can. There we go. Isn't that cute? And then from the back. Yeah, I really like the 2-inch binding for mug rugs because you don't have a lot of extra on the back, and it just does catch that binding all the way around. Yes. There we go. There we go. Ooh, Diana has double-sided wash-away tape that she uses. Yes, that would work too. I like using the liquid glue, and I can tell you the main reason why. I don't know what I did with it. Here we go. It's because it's cheap. And this bottle lasts forever, right? And, you know, when you do a lot of projects where you glue-based a lot of stuff, this is probably the cheaper alternative to using the double-sided tape that washes away. And I'm a little bit of a tightwad. Thank you, Teresa. Y'all, guess what I'm doing? I am going through and organizing my fabric up on the wall. I ordered some cardboard, sheets of cardboard, corrugated cardboard. And, it came in day before yesterday, and so I've been folding all of my fabric. I've got some more sheets coming today. These sheets are smaller because I have some bigger pieces of fabric that fit on the boards nicely, but I was going through my fabric, and a lot of my fabric wouldn't fit right on a board, so I have some smaller boards coming today. And so yeah, each day as I come in the studio, I'm just going to take a small stack and fold it on the boards and put it up. Instead of taking like 5 days to do everything, each day when I come in, I'm just going to do a small stack of fabric. Because y'all, I've been going, here lately, it's just been easier to go buy new fabric versus trying to pull through all of the mess that I have up on the wall to see what I have. And then the other day I was going through it and I found this and I was like, wow, I had forgotten it was buried in this stuff. And I was like, Lisa, you got to organize this stuff. You don't even know what you have. So, yeah, I'm getting on board with the folding the fabric on the boards. Please show us how you are folding with the cardboard. Okay. Thank you, Colette. Thank you. Let me go grab some boards. I have my blue jeans on today, so I can get up. And we're done with the mug rug. So let me go grab, yeah, give me a second. I'm going to grab my boards, and I'll grab a piece of fabric and just show you how I'm folding it up. It's not really like, I'm not being so persnickety about it. I just want it done so I can see. But hold on a second. Put that there, and I'll be right back. I brought over some purple fabrics. All right, so these are the boards that I've ordered off of Amazon, and they are 20 inches wide. I'll put a link that I bought them from in the description box after we're done today. So they're 20 inches wide and 14 inches tall. And I'm using my 5-inch ruler, and I'm cutting this one board into 4. So I ordered 100 sheets, and it was like 20 some dollars. But I get 4 of these, so I'll have 250 of these boards for $20, right? And they're sturdy. They're like the corrugated cardboard, and they cut super easy. So, and I'm just using like a box cutter to cut it with my 5-inch ruler. This board makes 4 of these. And that goes by pretty quick, right? And then, y'all, I'm not being persnickety about my fabric. I just want to be able to look over and see what I have. Because if you saw on my wall, I did take a before picture. So maybe down the road, once it's all done, you'll see before and after, and you'll be like, yeah, Lisa, you really needed to do that. As long as my fabric fits within this board, I'm folding it. Like, if it's too wide, I'm folding it so that it does not extend beyond my cardboard, right? And then I'm just folding the edge up over like that, right? I think this is probably 1.5 yards, maybe 2 yards of purple fabric. And I'm just folding it over like that. If it goes beyond, there we go, like that. Could even go like that, right? And then I've just been using pins, but y'all, I'm not worried about humidity here in my studio. You could use some plastic coated paper clips, binding clips, some way to secure it in place like that. Rubber band maybe, I don't know. But that's how I'm folding the fabric on my boards. And I've done some green and some yellow and some orange. And I still have a lot of crates of fabric on the wall that's not done yet, but just the few pieces that I've done since I got my boards, wow, what a difference it's going to make. I can see what I have. I can stop buying duplicate fabrics because I've done that before, and it's going to make it so much easier. Yeah, I have some boards coming that are, see, I'm cutting them 5 inches wide. So this is 5 by 14. I have some 5 by 7 pieces coming today. And those are already pre-cut 5 by 7 for my smaller bits of fabric. Because, you know, I'm famous for buying like quarter yards of fabric, especially when I need lots of different colors. But I don't need a lot of fabric, right? I just need lots of different colors. I'm famous for bringing 20 bolts of fabric up to the counter and buying a quarter yard from all of it. And then I might use 2 inches off of that quarter. And I have quarter yards, y'all. And so I don't need to use a big board for a quarter yard of fabric. So I did order some smaller boards. And I will just probably fold that quarter yard in half and roll it up on small boards. Sheila, you would help me come fold fabric? Ooh, we could have some tea and I'll make you an iced latte. I'll even make you dinner if you want to come help me fold fabric next week. That would be so much fun. Is it acid free? I believe so. I believe it is. I'll put a link to it so you can check it out after we're done. It'll take me a few minutes to grab that listing and put it in the description box. So you might want to come back and check. But you can go and check that out. Yes. Oh, fabric folding part. That would be so much fun. Oh my glory. So that's how I'm folding my fabric. Just like that. And so far, like I'm going to be so organized when I'm done. It'll be like some of the walls. Y'all remember, I'm going to switch this camera view. Some of the craft room tours that we did a couple months back, when you see all of their it looks like a quilt shop. I would watch these videos and go through these craft room tours and just be amazed at the way that everyone's got their fabric all organized and straight and neat. And I would look over at my wall and be like, Lisa, you've got to get your act together. And then when I found that fall fabric, I was like, I forgot I even had it. That's it. We got to do something. We got to fix it. So that's my mission. All right, so let me grab the project for next week, y'all. This is a casserole trivet. The 9 by, what is it, a 9 by 13 Pyrex casserole fits beautifully underneath of this. It does extend beyond the edges a little bit, but yes, this is Quilt As You Go. This is what we're making next week, and it doubles as a hot pad, right? It's a little awkward, you know, but it would keep, if you grabbed a casserole, keep your forearms from burning if you had 2 of them, right? So this is what we're doing next week. I think it's gorgeous, but it might be the fabrics that I used. And here's a little confession. You might recognize these fabrics if you've been around on my channel for a little while. The paper, foundation paper piecing pie block that we did, and I've made 14 blocks. This is the fabric I bought in Vermont for that quilt, and I'm just really sick and tired of making those blocks. And I'm looking at the bin because those fabrics I bought special for that quilt, they're in the bin with those blocks that I've made. They're just sitting there, and I'm like, all that pretty fabric just sitting there. And I will probably not make any more of those blocks. I should just put it together with the 14 blocks that I have made and use that fabric. So I did. I pulled out some and I used it for this trivet. And I'll probably pull out some and use it next week. Linda, I have baskets too. I have baskets for my scraps. They're overflowing. I really got to do something different. I like having the baskets with my scraps, but I've been throwing big chunks in my baskets, and that makes no sense. I should do something a little different. But here's the thing, I get really busy and I fill up my schedule with a lot of stuff. And then I have no time and no patience for folding stuff, right? It just goes thrown back in there. And I've abused my basket system to the point where when I'm going through it looking for scraps, right, I'm finding like almost whole fat quarters in my scrap baskets. I've got to be better than that. I need to do a little bit of a better job and slow down a little bit. Sheila, I would love that. We could feed you dinner. That would be so much fun. And maybe we could hold a Zoom while you're here and let people hang out with us. I don't know. Connie, my fabric will be out in the open too. We were talking on the Zoom the other night. How are people organizing their fabric? And some people use the plastic totes, right? And that has saved Miss Linda when her area flooded. That saved her fabric from being ruined. And then they say, don't put your fabric in plastic containers because something happens to it. Don't leave it out in the light. And then I don't know if there's a best way to deal with all your fabric or not. But I'm going to do what works for me and that I could see it and get to it quick. Y'all, I don't have a ginormous fabric stash. It has grown since I started, but I don't have a ginormous, like I couldn't open a quilt shop with my fabric. But I want to see what's there. And to be really honest, I don't want to have to go through a bunch of totes to find something that I'm looking for, because I don't have time for that. That's just me. I need to see it, grab it, use it, put it back. And I don't have a whole bunch. But what's really cool is that when I started off, I had one crate of fabric that was my aunt's, and I still have that. I don't use it anymore. It's just there. And everything else that I have has been leftovers from quilt projects, quilts that I've made, or fabric that I've bought to make quilts for other people, and this is what I had left over. That's how I've accumulated my fabric stash. So you won't find like 5-yard cuts in my stash or 2-yard cuts. This looks like it was maybe 1.5 yards, 2 yards, but Miss Jeannie sent me this. If I bought 2 yards of fabric, it was because it was supposed to be used for something, and I might have a little bit left over. Dari, that would be awesome if you lived close by. Yeah, Robin said maybe you need to have a large basket so you can toss stuff today and then sort it out on a designated day of the week or the month. Yeah, that sounds like more discipline, maybe, Robin, than I can commit to. Here's the thing, I'm really excited to do this, especially because I've done just a small little section. I've done maybe 20 pieces, and it looks so pretty, so I'm really excited to jump in and do it, but I'm going to tell you the excitement's going to run out real quick. And that's how I am. That's how I am with this project. That's how I am with the pie block quilt that's sitting halfway done in a bin. That's how I am with everything that I start. I cannot wait to start it, and then a quarter of the way in through, I lose interest. So yeah. Sheila, yes, email me. LisaCapeandQuilts@gmail.com or send me a message over on Facebook. Linda said, how long do you think fabric is good for? Linda, I have no idea. I think so much goes into that, right? I think first, the quality of the fabric has something to do with how long it's going to last, right? I think the quality has something to do with it. And then I do think the conditions in which it's stored has a lot to do with it. If it's stored near a window where the light's going to come in, I think that would deteriorate your fabric pretty quick. I don't know. If you're in a damp basement, I don't know. If the bugs can get to it, I don't know how long it's going to last. But here's an example, okay? And this one crate of fabric, I'm looking at it right here on my wall. It's out in the open now. It's folded up randomly. Was my great aunt's. My Aunt Avis, when she passed, I inherited a lot of her fabric. They let me come in and I took maybe 20 bags of quilting cotton out of her studio. And I made quilts for people from that fabric, but I had lots left, right? And then I inherited this ruler, which I use all the time. The markings are coming off. I have to remark it and everything. That was hers. And a book. I still have one crate, and that was, oh my goodness, 1998, I want to say. 97, 98, and I still have this fabric and I still use it. Now, at some point, that fabric did get put into a plastic bin and put in storage because I did not quilt for a long time. Single mom, 3 kids, 3 jobs. 1 full-time job, 2 part-time jobs. There was no time for sewing. I did not quilt for a really long time, and that fabric stayed in storage in a plastic bin for a very long time. But in the last 5-6 years, it's been out in the open, and I use it randomly, very sparingly. I'm very stingy with that fabric, but it's still fine. But my aunt, if you knew my aunt and you ever looked at her fabric, she did buy quality stuff, and it's lasted all this time. How many years is that? 97, 98? I can't do the math in my head. Joan, yeah, go through my channel. You'll see the pie block. That's a free pattern. We ended up making quilt blocks from the pie quilt block. Yeah, Hazel, I've got too much in progress. Gloria, I'm so glad I'm not the only one. I found 3. 1, 2, 3. I see them right there. 1, 2, 3, 4 fat quarters. They're all the same. And I know I did not buy them at the same time. Thank you so much, Miss Dory, for moderating today. Y'all, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Tune in next week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll put the thumbnail up. The pattern's already done for this. All I got to do is post the thumbnail for this video. Usually Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, the day before. But keep an eye out for that thumbnail. You'll recognize it. You'll see a picture of this. And grab that pattern, and yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun next Friday. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope you do something very relaxing and something fun. Don't work too hard. Are you using Heat and Bond? For today's project, yes, Miss Hazel, we used Heat and Bond. For this, no. Quilt as you go. Yep, this is the last couple days at the campground. So tomorrow we're having a cookout with the kiddos. And I made a chocolate cake for my son's birthday. We're going to have that and do some s'mores. Y'all, it's been a very chill week. We have not done much of anything because it's hot. But just having a week, you know, out of our normal everyday today has been relaxing. All right, I will see y'all next Friday. Have fun. Make sure you grab today's free pattern. Let's find where this is. Here we go. Bye, everybody.